Welcome back to Real Family Secrets. Grab your snacks, get comfortable. The people in these stories had every chance to behave themselves. They just chose wrong. Drop a comment and be sure to subscribe. You're going to love it here. My name is Gordon Ashby, and my father passed away 8 months ago, leaving his pension and most of his savings to my stepmother Vivian. A month later, I found a key in his desk drawer that led to a bank deposit box none of us knew existed. Inside was a letter, addressed not to me, but to a woman I'd never heard of in my entire life. My father, Walter Ashby, married Vivian 11 years ago, 6 years after my mother passed away from ovarian cancer. I liked Vivian well enough. She was kind to my father, attentive in his final years as his health declined. When Dad passed, his will was straightforward. The house, the pension survivor benefits, and most of his savings went to Vivian, which felt reasonable given 11 years of marriage. I received his tools, his old truck, and a modest life insurance payout. A month after the funeral, I was helping Vivian sort through Dad's home office, mostly boxes of old tax documents and fishing magazines. In the bottom drawer of his desk, taped beneath a false bottom I nearly missed entirely, I found a small brass key with a number etched into it, 4471, and the name of a bank branch 2 towns over. I didn't tell Vivian right away. Something about the hidden nature of it, the deliberate false bottom, made me want to understand what I was looking at before involving anyone else. I drove to the bank the following week, brought Dad's death certificate and my proof of executorship, and after some paperwork, a bank officer led me to a small private room with a metal deposit box. Inside was a stack of documents, old photographs, and a sealed letter with a name written on the front that meant absolutely nothing to me. Delphine Marchetti. I opened the letter, my hands unsteady, and began reading my father's handwriting, dated just 8 months before his death. "My dearest Delphine," it began. "If you are reading this, then I am gone, and I need you to know that not a single year passed where I didn't think of you and our daughter." I sat in that small bank room and read the word daughter 3 times before it fully registered. My father had another child, a daughter, with a woman named Delphine, someone I'd never once heard mentioned in 41 years of being his son. The letter continued, explaining fragments of a story that took me weeks to fully understand. Delphine had been my father's first serious relationship, decades before he met my mother, during a period in his 20s when he'd lived briefly in New Orleans. They'd had a daughter together, named Josephine, born the same year my father left New Orleans abruptly, under circumstances the letter explained carefully. Delphine's previous partner, Josephine's biological father, in name only, a man who'd never actually fathered the child, had been violently possessive and dangerous, and had threatened both Delphine and my father when he discovered the affair. "I left because staying endangered both of you," the letter continued. "I sent money for years, quietly, through a lawyer, never through my own name, because Marcus swore he'd find you both if he ever learned who the money came from. But ahikun, gremios. I never remarried during those years by choice," my father wrote. "I built a life that looked ordinary from the outside, so that nothing about me would draw attention back to either of you. When I finally met Gordon's mother, I told myself I owed her honesty eventually, and I never found the courage." I sat in that small room for almost an hour. 41 years of believing I knew my father completely, and there was an entire hidden chapter, a daughter, a hidden decade, a dangerous man he'd spent years quietly protecting 2 people from. The letter included a final piece of information, a private investigator's contact, hired 2 years before Dad's death, along with a folder confirming Delphine had passed away 9 years earlier, but that Josephine, my half-sister, was alive, 39 years old, living in Baton Rouge. I didn't tell Vivian immediately. I needed to understand what I was going to do with this information before I brought anyone else into it. I found Josephine's contact information through the investigator's old case file and wrote her a careful letter, explaining who I was, enclosing a copy of our father's letter, and asking if she'd be willing to talk. 3 weeks passed before she responded. Her reply arrived by email, cautious but warm. I always wondered about him, she wrote. My mother mentioned a man from her past, sometimes, always briefly, always with a strange kind of sadness. She never told me his name until she was dying, and even then, only a first name, Walter. She told me he sent money for years, through a lawyer, until I turned 18. She said it was the safest way he could show he still cared, without putting either of us at risk. Josephine and I began talking regularly after that first email. Video calls at first, tentative and careful. Then eventually, 6 weeks later, an actual visit. She flew up to meet me, and we spent a weekend going through old photographs of Dad, comparing the fragments of his life we'd each only partially known. You have his laugh, she told me on the second day, watching some home video from my childhood. I never got to hear it in person. I eventually told Vivian everything. She took it better than I expected, quieter, more thoughtful, less shocked than sad, mostly for the years Dad had carried this alone, rather than trusting anyone with it. He wasn't hiding it because he was ashamed, Vivian said, after reading the letter herself. He was hiding it because he was scared, for decades, of a man he thought might still be looking. Josephine and I hired the same investigator to confirm, once and for all, whether Marcus, her mother's dangerous former partner, was still a threat. He'd died 11 years earlier, in a car accident, entirely unrelated to our family. Whatever danger our father had spent decades protecting us from had, quietly, ended over a decade before he did. Josephine and I have grown genuinely close over the past several months. She visited again last month, and my own kids have started calling her Aunt Jo, easily, the way children accept new family without needing every complicated detail explained first. I think about my father differently now. Not as a man who kept a shameful secret, but as a man who carried a decades-long act of quiet protection, almost entirely alone, choosing silence over risk, even when the risk had long since disappeared. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real family stories, and tell us in the comments, do you think your own parents could be hiding a chapter like this?
Barely awake, skyline flickers through the blinds. Ash on the tabletop, rhythm tapping in my mind. Phone lights blink, voicemails from yesterday. Room full of echoes, patterns that never stay. Gold laces on my shoes, tracking dust from the lobby. Hands deep in pockets, secrets the city taught me. Laughter sounds distant, never aimless, always plotting. Every mirror a puzzle, blinking the world keeps swapping. I hear the crowds, low crowd from behind the door. No script for the night, wild cards all on the floor. Running from routine, chase the static instead. Every line I draw, I erase and rewrite in red. On my way to signal the store. Counting sins and receipts, I still soar. Woke up in a different report. They want a story, I live a retort. Jacket heavy from regrets, new faces slip off my sleeve. Watch dogs circle, but I keep one up each. Daylight land erupts, but I keep my plans nocturnal. Beneath all talk, hearts beating inferno. Paranoia, certainly with a twist of pride. No instructions for this ride. Static on my tongue when the truth